When we're talking about what would be effective in maintaining a relentless stream of stories about things that we are doing, how we are tackling climate change, it's precisely those stories of doing, those stories of action. Because they aren't just about climate, they are about all of these other things in life where people make decisions, where people do something, where people have an interest. If climate change were food, our level of sophistication to talk about it at the moment would be, if you don't eat, you will die, and therefore you must urgently eat. That's our level of sophistication of how most of the messaging about climate is happening at the moment. But on food, we don't talk about food like that. We have cooking classes, we write cookbooks, we have entire sort of stables of celebrities who become the people that teach other people how to cook, that tell the stories of the how. And so we can replicate this on anything to do with the changes that need to happen to take us to the sustainable lifestyle in 10 or 20 years' time. If you fast forward to 2030 or 2040 and you think about how would the world be different, what would all the different things be that we are doing differently from today, from the way that we're doing investment, to marketing, to the way that television works, to the way that journalism works. All of the changes that you can imagine would be sitting in that world in 2030 are stories that you can tell about how do we get there? Mm-hmm. How do we start that journey? How do we make those moves, basically?
So how do we do it?
So through finding this, finding the front runners who are already figuring out the changes that they need to make in their life. So I gave the example of the pensioner in Cornwall who had been able to retrofit her home. The example of the journalists who shifted away from telling threatening stories about climate change to now telling action stories about climate change. The businesses who are making shifts. So we ran a workshop only 2 weeks ago with a big engineering company. We asked them for their examples of where they had already been able to make a difference for their clients on climate change. And we had 17 people come up with 17 wonderful stories of how they had overcome struggles and managed to shift the client and do something meaningful on climate. So these stories, we're currently not seeing them anywhere in the media.
And are they stories that you think should be promoted by celebrities? I mean, how are they going to keep people's attentions?
Well, to some degree, they will become just part of the fabric of how the media reports. And to some degree, celebrities and influencers can sort of tell their own stories or can amplify the other stories of other people who are doing this. So it's again the kitchen sink argument. It's all of the things you can imagine we need to do, we can be doing, and we should be doing.
Okay, so who kicks it off?
It's again the systems approach, and this is again with the Climate Action Unit, we're operating in a lot of these different corners because these things need to move together. So we give some training to journalists to be able to shift to that storytelling frame. We give training to people working in businesses in order to know how to start looking for their own agency, for their own ability to shift what they are doing in their business. We even ran a program with Parliament in this, where again it was like, what are the roles of parliamentarians and peers in order in that shift that needs to happen in society. So it's in all of these different corners of society you can try to affect that change. And then you can tell the stories about the change that we're discovering how to do.